as you can see, we've now painted the wingtops and put them in, and the tail fins have gone in as well, just to recap. And then once you've put these in place, you're going to have to go in and paint in the roots. So the kit part ends there, and then you need to paint the root in, and I just very carefully did that by hand, no masking involved in that, and the same with the wings. So following the instructions, I can see there, it's a bit difficult to know what happens at this end here. So I've followed the panel line to this point here, and then followed the natural curve down. Just do whatever feels right, to be honest. But now we're at the point where we need to paint this top part, and then we can gloss varnish it, ready for decals and to preserve the paintwork. I'm in the process of painting these, and I'd seen a picture with the mounts red, and I can't find it on the internet again, but I like the idea. It gives me a bit of a contrast against that colour underneath. I think it'll look really smart. So that's what I've done. I haven't varnished those yet. You can see these were gloss varnished, ready for the decals. I've still got some to put on the fins, little white spots to go on the fins. Done my bomb, just one, because I'm gonna put no rockets on the wing that's up. So I've cut the rockets off, just to show the mounts, which, like I say, has been painted a nice bright red, which is the same red that will be used on the nose cone. Okay, so that's something you can do. I've got the drop tanks in the process of being painted, so I'm painting that half and then turning it over, painting that half. And the underneath section of the wings that will go in there are being painted, ready for fitting. And you can see that I've already added the mount for the bomb, which should go in something like that. So yeah, so I'll crack on, do the taping, paint that in, and then I'll come back to you as when we need to remove the tape and show you how we're going to do that. Great, see you later. So I've just given that 2 coats of paint, and I'm happy that I've got enough paint down now. So whilst the paint is still damp, I want to take the tape off, because once it's dried, we're much more likely to get a ridge, and we want to try and avoid that best we can. So I'm just going to use a pair of tweezers and start at this edge here. And just make sure that I've got that lifted off. And then I'm going to go to this end here, and again I'm going to use the tweezers just to pull it away from the edges enough for me to get my finger to it. So that bit can come off first. Then that bit can come off. And then we should be able to there we go. I might do the other side. And just that last piece. There we have it. Nice straight line. Nice gentle curve that we carefully put in. that looks really good. We're now at the point where we need to construct the wing tip, and I'm doing the folded wing first. So because this wing's going to be folded up, the internals are going to be visible, so we have an extra bit that we need to put in that we don't need on the other wings. And then we have a connector bit that's going to help us locate it onto the fuselage. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this part that's been pre-painted, which will be the wing top surface skin, and we're just going to go around and make sure that we've got no paint where we want to put glue that's going to interfere with the fit and cause a gap. Give that a second to cure. Then we're going to take this underneath skin and just check. I haven't got much in the way of paint on the surfaces there, a tiny bit. Increasingly I'm finding with Airfix's new kits is the tolerances get better and better. Right, let's do that test fit. So some location holes there, 3 location holes and pins that are going to help us align this. There we go. So I just want to see how easy is it going to be to paint that. Well, a small brush, that shouldn't be a problem. So we'll be painting the inside there, the linen yellow, but also these edges here. So looking at that, I've got a little bit of paint to remove off those edges. So that's the top wing surface done. And as we look at the instructions, top wings in, we've already drilled the holes on the bottom bit, so we can add the bottom bit. So we'll test fit that. No fit issues there. So we've painted a number of the parts in this linen yellow, which has also included the exposed internals of the wings, ready for that to be displayed in the folded up position. Now you'll notice that the main wheels are weighted, so they have a flat on which sits on the ground and gives you the impression of them having some weight as the aircraft sits on them, but the tail wheel doesn't. So what I've done is I've just sanded a bit of a flat on the tail wheel, which will just help that sit square. It should be free spinning-ish when we put it on. It's a simple clip-on affair. I can show you like that. So there you go. So we'll be able to adjust that when it's done. So the centre of the wheel's also been painted aluminium, but before I can assemble it, it needs a wash, and also the tyres need painting. So the instructions, I think, call for that to be painted 33, which is their Humbrol's matte black, but I'm going to paint it using Vallejo's tyre black. So if we're painting that, we might as well paint the main wheels, which were also painted aluminium in the hubs at the same time. They have this lovely, the main wheels have this lovely assembly where the hubs cast into one half, and then you've just got a tyre ring to mate around it, and the location lugs have been placed so that you can only align it properly, which is nice. One thing that was slightly disappointing was on 2 halves of it are attached on to the sprue where the flat is, and the other 2 weren't. And if they'd all been attached by the flat, then that's one area you wouldn't worry so much about the cleanup. but where the tabs have been, I've filed them down, and then I've used a tiny razor saw to just go in and put the grooves back in. I might well have to do that after I've glued the two halves together. So we're now ready to paint, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint, I'm going to glue these together and then paint them, and we'll mount it on a little bit of blue tack. So let's start with getting the two halves stuck together. Super thin glue. That's one done. Paint that, ignoring the little section where the sprue's still connected to it, but because that's on the flat underneath, I'm not worried. I probably won't even touch it up. It depends on whether my modelling OCD gets the better of me or not. Okay, so that's all now ready for painting. The little tyres, they're always difficult, but we will mount that on some, mount the flat that I've created on some blue tack, and hope that gives us what we need for painting. There we go. Right, I'll carry on and get the tyres painted, and then when we're ready for assembly, I'll come back to you. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a wash, a dust wash. So I'm using this colour, stone grey. So what you're looking for is that sort of pale grey, pale sandy, slightly grey type colour. So I've decanted a little bit of that into my palette, and we're just going to thin that down a little bit to change it from being a paint to a wash. We want it to be fairly thin. We want there to be enough pigment there to collect into the various grooves. Now, if you're not sure whether you've got the wash thin enough, get a bit of sprue and just wash it over and see what happens. So I think that's looking all right to me. Now we can always go over this, so you know there's no problems if something here doesn't go to plan. And what we're going to do is we're just going to gently run the brush over the tread detail and around the tyre. There we go. If you think you've got too much collecting, you can get a little bit of tissue and just dab it away. There we go. And it's as simple as that. And what that's done is brought out the detail of the tread and made the tyre look a bit more used. Now, this tyre, the rear tyre, has no tread, but we need to key it in. So I'm going to take some wash and just coat around the tyre. So it's got the same sort of dusty look. And then I'm just going to wipe it away from the top of the tyre that would come into contact with the surfaces. Let's just do this last one. So as you can see, I just loaded the brush once and then I'm working it around the tyre to spread the wash out rather than putting lots more paint on. You have time to move it about. Just check all the way around. Make sure we've got it in all the tread that we want. There we go, happy with that. And that's it, wash is simply done. So we're now going to dry brush these parts here that have been given a brown wash, because they look a little bit too grubby. So simply we're going to take a small flat brush, dip it in the enamel paint unthinned, and then wipe it clean on a bit of tissue. And then simply we're going to brush over it. And what that will do is it'll highlight all the raised areas, but we can also go into the not raised areas and just subtly reduce the amount of wash that's in those areas. So I'll show you that now, very gently, just in the center. There we go. We can also use it to pick out the edges again, which wouldn't necessarily be that grimy. So this is the same technique I used in the wheel bays. There we go. I'm going to do the same on here. So anything that just looks a little bit harsh, we can just tone it down. Probably it will show up the most on these parts that have got lots of detail. Now you can see on here I've painted this little rod in, I used Humbrol 191, which is metallic chrome, because that looks like a rod that would go into this here, so it looks like it's hydraulics, so that wouldn't be painted in my mind. So again, we're just going to go over highlight those details, and at the same time as we're highlighting the detail, it's also highlighting the wash too, if that makes sense, because as we put the dry brush over it, it lightens the raised areas, which at the same time darkens the areas that have received a wash, the recesses.